this meeting to order. Superintendent, would you please call the roll?
President Holt,
Present.
trustee Grigsby,
Present.
trustee Poole,
Present.
trustee Travis,
Present.
trustee Wedge.
Present. And is there any public comment on the closed session agenda items? Seeing none, it is 6 o'clock. We will recess the closed session and reconvene here at 7. Okay, it is 7 o'clock, so we will reconvene here in open session. Clerk Grigsby, do you mind leading us in the pledge of allegiance? No action was taken in closed session, and I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None. Moving on to item 6, public comment, and this is for items not on tonight's agenda. Do we have any?
Okay, Savannah Medinger, Meidinger, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, moving to 7, starting with our Teachers Association.
Good evening, trustees. I would like to bring forward several concerns that affect our students, families, and staff across the district and in our community. First, we're seeing new staff and new faces on on continuity for our students and families who are trying to build relationships with a sense of stability. At Auburn Elementary, Aries is still not functioning properly, which leaves staff in an incredibly difficult position. Imagine having to tell parents and students on the first day of school that they are not on a class list and we do not know where their students should be placed because we do not have access to that information. That is not acceptable, nor is it the type of experience we want families to have on the first days of school. Additionally, class sizes at Auburn Elementary are over capacity, while classes at E.V. Kane remain noticeably under-enrolled. What message does that send to our community? Site is half full. How do you think the staff at those school sites feel when faced with this imbalance? How fiscally responsible is this model, both in the short and long term? There are also concerns about facilities. Are the playgrounds being completed and safe for our students to use? Families have been waiting long for updates. At E.V. Kane, there are also serious concerns with the playground that is currently in the back, with huge chunks of cement and rock that have been pulled out in preparation for the shade structure. But the shade structure itself has not yet appeared. Not only is this an eyesore, it is also potentially a safety issue for our students. What projects are started and left incomplete undermines trust in the district's ability to follow through and create real safety issues in spaces where children feel safe and cared for. And finally, the topic of the district's diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. For the board is considering removing it, stating that it does not align with your values. Then the community deserves clarity. What are your values? What do you stand for? How are you making sure that all students in Auburn Union feel supported, included, and treated equitably when they are navigating issues like race, language, learning differences, and socioeconomic barriers? How are we ensuring that every student is seen and valued without being reduced to labels? Our students, families, and staff need consistency, responsible fiscal management, and values that openly affirm equity and inclusion. I urge the board to reflect on the message and your decisions to our community, and more importantly, on the impact they have on the daily lives of our children. Respectfully, Sarah Liebert, AUTA President.
Thank you. And do we have CSDA with us tonight? Don't think so. Moving to item 8, our consent agenda. We're going to need to pull item H. Is there anything anybody else would like to pull?
E.
E, okay. Once. Okay, so we're going to pull and H. With those accepted, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Does that include H1?
Correct. Thank you. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Oh, roll call. Pardon. Thank you. Clerk. Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Travis? Aye. And trustee Wedge?
Aye.
Long sum. And just for clarity too, Clerk Grigsby's having trouble with the computer, so her phone has the agenda up. She's not just scrolling. So moving then to item E. Trustee Travis, if you want to pull E.
Yeah. When going through that, I saw that there is a section on there that says my vote wasn't recorded, and I just wanted to say that I had voted yes. It's for June 13th. Let me pull it up. For the minutes, I probably could have emailed you, but I forgot to put it in my email.
On 4 under consent, Emily?
Yeah, I think it's on the 13th. Yeah, it's for the 13th.
Oh, yeah, this-
I see it only there. Yeah, that's just an oversight. Okay.
Yeah, I figure. That's all.
With that change made, I move that we approve the board meeting minutes.
Second.
And clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
Start with trustee Wedge,
Aye.
trustee Travis.
Aye.
Trustee
Aye.
clerk Grigsby, aye, and president.
Aye. Like item H, Jeremy, if I just, also want to report on that.
Yeah, currently we're in talks with the Placer County Sheriff's Office on renting out the Rock Creek property for Post Academy. And the Sheriff's Department wanted additional time to review the contract, and we're gonna meet with them tomorrow. So it should be coming back September.
Thank you. So moving then to item 9A, civil grand jury response. Do we have any public comment on that?
Only 9B.
Okay.
Let me double check first. All 9B? Okay, good. Okay, so every year, the civil grand jury has a number of reports that they make. And there was one report on Auburn Union School District. It came out on July 1st. And it was entitled Auburn Union School District Tackling Academic and Financial Challenges. The grand jury report puts together findings, and then they also put together recommendations. And then it is asked of that public agency, in this case Auburn Union, to respond to the findings and the recommendations. And we do that response. Oh, thank you. That's B as well. And we put that response together for you as a draft. So if you take a look at the both the report, the full report, and our response are in this agenda item. So open the response. And what you will see is that first is the form that they ask us to fill out. I'm going to go through findings first. We can either agree with the finding or disagree in part or in whole with the finding. We agreed with, there are 9 findings in total. We agreed with 8 of them. And we had a partial disagreement with one of the findings, which was F2. If you then scroll down that document to the 3rd page, you'll see that we then have to talk about why we disagreed with that finding. So I'm just going to talk through each of those briefly, and then I'll pause and we can kind of discuss if there's anything that anyone has questions about or wants to amend, with our goal being that we'll have a complete report to approve at the end and then forward to the grand jury by the response date, which for some of these is in September and some are in October. Okay, so the finding 2 is beginning balances for multi-year budgets do not match or align with prior years. And we disagree in part with that. Do you want to talk through that part, Jeremy, or I'm happy to do it, whatever you prefer.
Sure, I can elaborate on that. When we develop budgets, they're estimated, and so they won't match the balances when we close the book. So it's a little confusing when you're trying to analyze budgets in different cycles. And so as we go through the budget cycle, the county office reviews them, auditors review them, and we make adjustments to beginning and starting balances. In 23-24, there was an actual error where the estimated ending fund balance was not matching the estimated beginning fund balance, which is just an error.
So that's the disagree in part. So we agree that there was a typo there and it was fixed in subsequent interim reports. But then we walked through sort of the budget cycle where we do estimated numbers and then actuals at the appropriate time. So they don't always match for reasons that we deal with a very large budget and things happen. For example, we've talked about before where if a teacher goes out on leave and we have a substitute, or we can't fill a position, excuse me, and we fill with a substitute, the substitute cost is less than we would anticipate for a full-time teacher position. Therefore, our estimates are going to be slightly off, given that when we close out the budget, we spent fewer dollars than we anticipated spending. So our disagreement portion was that they don't match. That's typical because they are in fact estimates, and that's the nature of estimates. That's finding 2. Any questions on that one? Or any of the findings we agreed with that there's feedback on? Okay. All right, I'm going to go on to the recommendations. So the grand jury gave us 5 recommendations. We have to respond to each of those by saying either that we have implemented them, we have not implemented them, and then we need to give a date of when we're going to do that. Or if we require further analysis. And our 4th option is if we are not going to be implementing. So I'm going to start at the top with R1. Actually, let me just start where the page is because we started with R2. So the ones that we have implemented, and then we have to explain how we did that. We begin with R2. So we said we've implemented R2, and the recommendation was this: the Board of Trustees should direct the Auburn Union School District to footnote any, oh, I said it wrong. I'm sorry, back up. Let me try again. I started at the bottom. Okay, so let me reword that. The ones we will not be implementing, that's how I started it in the report. So R2, the one we will not be implementing, this goes along with what we just talked about with the findings. So it's the Board of Trustees should direct the Auburn Union School District to footnote any Auburn Union School District submitted budgets where the subsequent year ending balances do not match the prior ending balances for all multi-year budgets by September 1. We noted that we would not be implementing this because it's not warranted or not reasonable. And when we went on to discuss that we had a partial agreement in finding 2, which is what I just described and Jeremy described, because estimated beginning and ending fund balances are corrected once actuals are available, and that is in line with standard reporting process for school budgets. Therefore, a footnote is unnecessary as estimated beginning and ending fund balances are by their nature just that, estimates, and presume that they may change as appropriate once actuals are available. So that goes along with the finding that we partially disagreed with and that we won't be implementing the footnote recommendation unless anyone else feels otherwise. Questions or thoughts on that one? Okay. So now we get to the list of things we have implemented. The first one is R3. That is that the Board of Trustees for Auburn Union School District should respond and implement the recommendations of the 7-Eleven committee to generate additional revenue from district assets by end of year this year, December 31st, 2025. We noted that has already been implemented. If we recall, we had a board meeting on March 13th where the 7-Eleven committee, which had been meeting all fall, provided their recommendations to the board. It was on 3 different properties: Rock Creek, Atwood, and Sherland Track. And since that time, the Board of Trustees has taken steps to implement all recommendations, including lease of the Rock Creek property, action on sale towards Atwood, and investigation of community partnerships at Sherland Track. So we state that we've implemented that recommendation. Thoughts on that one? Okay. R4, the Board of Trustees of the Auburn Union School District should actively communicate to the Auburn community specific plans and concerns regarding pursuit of the California Community Schools Partnership Program funds. Include this information in the strategic plan and the Board of Trustee minutes by September 1, 2025. We noted that this has already been implemented. As per the direction from the Board of Trustees, we applied to cohort 4 of the California Community Schools Partnership Program for an implementation grant in 2025. During a regular board meeting, the plans and concerns regarding pursuit of the community schools grant were discussed, and this portion of the recommendation was implemented. Regarding inclusion of the information within the updated strategic plan, we'll talk about that one more in a minute, but we have that slated for completion in spring. This portion of the recommendation will not be implemented. We discussed that in May of 2025, the California Department of Ed released those selected for cohort 4. Although we applied for it, we were not selected for receiving that grant. And cohort 4 was the final cohort for that implementation grant. So given this, no further action can be taken regarding California Community Schools Partnership Grants. And therefore, when we do a strategic plan document that's forward-looking, it's counter to the spirit of the document to include items that we can't do moving forward. So we are declining to do that part, although we did implement the first part. Any questions on that one? Okay, R5, the Board of Trustees of Auburn Union School District should continue to pursue additional funding to expand on existing district transportation services by end of year, December 31st, 2025. We have implemented that. So we've had our city and county bus passes as in previous years. Those are still in effect. This year, we began bus routes that go through high chronic absenteeism areas in North Auburn and serve Auburn Elementary. As discussed in the grand jury report, there are two main factors that drive district revenue. One is enrollment and the second is attendance. Our thought and hope is that while financial constraints make district-wide busing infeasible, we expect that the placement of these routes will positively impact our overall percentage of attendance and therefore increase our revenue. And our hope is that that revenue can then be funneled back into additional transportation to build our transportation program further. Questions or thoughts on that to change? Okay. Oh, and then R1 is to complete a strategic plan update. So we are working on that. As I mentioned, that will happen in spring. So the only response we give to the committee is when our targeted date of completion is, which I put as, or we put as April 15th, 2026. Thoughts or adjustments for the grand jury response? Okay,
The report was crazy to read the whole history
yeah.
of our district.
I will say it was, you know, I think anyone in a public agency would agree they don't want to be the subject of a civil grand jury report. But when you receive one, as we did, I think it is overwhelmingly favorable. We've made great strides. They talk quite a bit about the camaraderie of the board and the district and moving forward and the things that we have done so far in the last year that they were conducting their investigation. So it was nice to read, and obviously we have to write a response, but that was not too hard to do considering our team has done a lot of great work. So with that, staff recommends that we approve the report as written, and then we will send it off in time to the two agencies that need to receive it.
I'm sorry, I was trying to read through it and where's R1?
There's no response for R1 except in the actual document they give us. It just says if you have not yet done it, you need to tell us when you're going to do it. So we noted April 15th.
It's on page 3 here, just saying that recommendations numbered R1 have not yet been implemented, but will be implemented in the future. So it's on page 3. Thanks. Jeff, put together that response. I move that we approve the response to this civil grand jury.
I second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? It passes. Okay, moving to 9B. So we've got some public comment. Great.
All right, we'll begin with Tomas Evangelista.
Glad to go. During public comment in support of the diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, it was mentioned the last meeting that the diversity, equity, and inclusion statement felt like that that didn't reflect the community's values, but I'm here to tell you that it does, that there are many in our community, specifically in the community that I come from, which is the Latino community that supports this statement. It does reflect the values that we believe this school district should have. But it was also mentioned at the last meeting that there was some school districts throughout the country that when they had a statement like this, or policies to be more specific, that ended their gifted and talented programs. And they made it sound like it was throughout the country, but really, look at the actual schools that did get rid of their gifted and talented programs in the name of policies like this, or not statements, policies that our diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're in Seattle, Boston, and New York City. So major cities, there have not been any districts that I know of, especially in our area, that have gotten rid of their gifted and talented programs due to these type of policies, let alone a statement. So I just wanted to make sure to mention that. And it also sounds like that the need to get rid of this statement is really brings an infusion of our national politics. I know it was mentioned that that statement was created at a time when there was a national movement. Again, there also is, I guess, movement now to get rid of that nationwide. So it's infusing again the politics that I feel like our school district and our community tries to not do as much. You all have done a really good job of working together and not distract with these type of actions. And I encourage you guys to continue doing that. But I also want to say that I support this statement, but I understand if there does need to be a change to the statement. Maybe the wording could be changed, but I feel like all of us here in this room do agree with what the statement is trying to do, which is be inclusive, which is stand for a diverse community, and for whatever equity stands for in your guys' eyes. I know it could be different with everybody, but I encourage you all to at least keep this statement or just make small changes to it. Thank you.
Neva Parker.
Here today to read a letter, on behalf of the resident, Daniela Zimmerman. She says, "Dear AUSD Board of Trustees, I urge you to vote to retain the district's DEI statement, continue to be transparent about your commitment to trustees to providing a quality education for all enrolled students." A board member stated at our last public meeting that no one had yet made a compelling statement about why AUSD should retain their public statement in support of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I submit that doing so offers several key benefits, including the following. It supports a more inclusive curriculum by incorporating diverse perspectives, which in turn improves students' critical thinking and empathy, and better prepares students for a globalized world of exposing them to different viewpoints. When students see themselves reflected in their learning environment and materials, it also boosts their sense of feeling welcome, which leads to greater engagement, motivation, and ultimately higher retention and graduation rates. By considering diversity in hiring and promotion, the district can attract more diverse faculty as positions become open, foster a higher job satisfaction and better retention of quality teachers, give students a better opportunity to have teachers with whom they can identify and with varied perspectives and backgrounds. It was also stated by a board member at the last public meeting that they did not feel the district's current statement supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion reflects the values of the Auburn community. I and many others disagree with this opinion and would hold that Auburn is a diverse community, which does in fact value fostering equity and inclusiveness in our local schools as well as within our wonderful community. Additionally, please note that nothing in the DEI statement approved by the previous board conflicts with the district's guiding principle, vision statement, or mission statement. Rather, together they provide a solid base to support what any good school district should be about. Publicly stating that the district values diversity, equity, and inclusiveness sends the important message to students and families that they are seen and that they are valued. I sincerely hope that this Board of Trustees chooses to show that they do value AUSD students, families, and faculty from all walks of life, and that they are committed to providing a quality educational environment for all students enrolled in the district. Very truly yours, Daniela Zimmerman, retired educator of 35 years.
Pat Pistoni.
Yeah, I wasn't sure that we were going to be getting rid of it totally from the last meeting. I'm kind of in support, as he was saying, to possibly change some of the wording of it. Just to kind of come up to a little bit more. Just to change some of the wording, period. So that's what I'm supportive. I'm not supporting getting rid of it totally. I mean, it's like, it's done pretty well. I mean, really, and many parts of it, but I think we could improve. As a community, as a district for all our students, and to make a better outcome and a better way that people look at it. Possibly could even bring more people who want to come to our schools. I mean, you never know what can happen if you make a good change. So that's what I'm going to say. Thank you. Oh, and I did, I went through it and I kind of did my own little thing. I won't read it to you because you guys are just going. But I thought, I'll just pretend like I'm back in the classroom again. And so I thought, what could you do? So I kind of had fun with it, But anyway, thank you.
Veronica Magana.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm a parent of multiple students in this district. I'm here tonight to express concern about several serious issues impacting our schools and our students' futures. First, I want to address the decision to remove the DEI statement from the district's website. When asked why at the previous meeting, the only response given was, "We don't need it," basically. And that's not an explanation. It's a dismissal of values that matter. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are not just buzzwords. They are essential to creating a school environment where every student feels seen, supported, and safe. Removing that statement sends a message that values no longer matter here, and that's incredibly disappointing. Second, we need to talk about the growing inequities between our schools. Auburn Elementary continues to face major challenges: high teacher and staff turnover, a fifth principal within 7 years, delayed class schedule for middle schoolers, minimal support in the district. At E.B. King, there's also a high number of first-year teachers, little support in place for them, disrupted classrooms, and delayed or unfinished facility upgrades. And then there's Skyridge, stable staffing, on-time schedules, and a majority of the district's experienced educators are all placed there. When you look at these disparities, especially since the school consolidation, hard not to notice how the new long divide. The way those boundaries were mapped has created what feels like a classes system, where one group of students consistently gets access to the strongest support, while others are left to struggle in under-resourced environments. That's not equity and is not acceptable. Beyond that, still lacks access to advanced classwork, full foreign language programs, or diverse electives, especially in the middle school level. Students who want to be challenged or enriched in their education are left with limited opportunities. I was also disturbed by the way board handled discussions at the last meeting, the interrogation of the head of nutrition over culturally inclusive menus, the 10-minute debate about retreats, on a board and also a board members tonight remark about a suggestion for more representative staff all reveal a troubling disconnect. No one is asking to hire based on appearance. We're asking you to open up hiring to a broader, more diverse pool of qualified candidates, so students can see themselves reflected in the adults who teach and support them every day. Lastly, the board members who do not have children in our schools, I urge you to please spend time in the buildings, talk to the families, and listen to the students. These decisions affect our kids every day. Your role is not to impose personal beliefs, but to collaborate with parents and educators to ensure every student in this district has the equal opportunity to success. Thank you.
Dave, sorry, were you gonna do something? I heard you guys talk. Do you want to do something with the mic or? Oh, I understand. Okay, that's helpful to know for anyone who has their phone. Thank you. Okay, Shauna Stafford.
Erasing DEI statements is one of the goals of the openly political agenda known as Project 2025. Yet our community has spoken and asked that the board revise the statement rather than erase it. If the board votes to erase the statement tonight, this is a clear signal that members of this board are focused more on their own political agenda than doing the work needed to improve our schools. It has been stated multiple times by a member of this school board that we should focus on individual students and not groups of students. Groups of students and groups of people are powerful. It has been people together as groups who have fought and won freedoms that had previously been kept from them. What we know from experience, research, and expertise is that by looking at data where students are grouped in meaningful ways, we can address needs and remove barriers to learning. By looking at data for absent students, we notice that closing down the school that is walking distance from the neighborhood where many students live results in chronic absenteeism. And we know that when students are in class less, not only do they learn less, but they lose opportunities and support. These issues hurt individual students and our school district overall. Our superintendent spoke to this issue tonight, in fact. Data is not just numbers, it is the story of Auburn students. When we look carefully at achievement, discipline, attendance, and group participation through a demographic lens, we begin to see important patterns. Those patterns tell us where barriers exist and where we must act to ensure every child has the chance to succeed. Without data, inequities remain invisible. With data, they become problems that can be solved. Americans created laws to prevent groups of people from learning, and groups of American people fought those laws and put new ones into place that made it possible for people to get the education they deserved. We as Americans have a rich history of moving forward. Remember the Little Rock Nine. It was through laws and policies that Black students were finally allowed to attend school, and then finally allowed to attend schools that were not falling apart, and then allowed to have the right to the same schools as their white peers. In addition, women fought together for the right to attend higher education. We are at our best as Americans when we recognize the harm that has been done in the past to specific groups and work together to find solutions. We are at our worst when we allow a few people with power, such as school board members, to make decisions that will result in more harm being caused to the children of Auburn. So I ask the members of this school board who represent all of the people in their community to tonight revise and not get rid of the statement. Otherwise, you're communicating something really loud to us.
Deborah Rain.
I want to acknowledge what the people who came before me said. I'm also speaking in favor of keeping or at modifying in minimal ways the DEI statement. What I think is really important here is to separate the policy and the statement, as you were saying, but to do it in a constructive way. I heard at the last board meeting a lot of comments about we follow the law, but actually the laws are changing. Just today, there was a news article that the Department of Education has rescinded directives about language learning for English language learners in the schools. We know we have English language learners in Auburn. And if that federal impetus to make sure they get the resources they need goes away, where will this board be? Will those students get what they need? When you take away the statement and say you'll rely on policies, you make a strong statement to the members of the community who need those policies and need your stance to support them and their students to get access to the education that we all know makes a huge difference in the quality of life here in Auburn and for those students going forward. I heard in the last meeting real pain about some of what felt like attacks for considering removing that statement. I'm not here to attack you. I know you're all good people, but we need to take a moment to put ourselves in the position of the people that need those policies and need the strength of that statement to feel safe here. Personally, I have friends who are Asian American and their children are older now, but their son goes to Chico State. And earlier this year, they considered sending him overseas to school because they were concerned about how the community there might treat their Asian young man. We need more statements of inclusivity and support for students, not fewer in a divisive environment. We need to stand behind our community and with our community to bring our community together. And removing that statement right now would, as others have said, be a very strong communication to those who need it. Let's not do that. I implore you.
Alex Veeder.
I'm Alex better, but that's okay. No, I'm totally kidding. Okay. So unlike some of you on the board, I don't see any harm in having a DEI statement, period. It feels like it's the most gentle, straightforward way to signal to every student and their family that they are seen, valued, and they belong. I can only imagine that it can increase confidence, reduce anxiety, and help students engage fully in learning, creating a more emotionally supportive school for everyone. As a parent, seeing any statement affirming a school's commitment to inclusion gives me great peace and confidence in that school district that I'm trusting to teach and lead my children. Not only that, but in my business as a real estate agent in Auburn, I get a lot of questions about our school district. And I want to be able to say with confidence that I highly recommend it. When we don't have a statement that shows these specific values, I cannot in good conscience recommend us. And we all know we need the enrollment. So whatever you do, please don't ignore all of these please. If you must delete it, I just ask you to work together to collaborate on something that we can all see. It doesn't have to be labeled DEI, but it's something that, that we can. I'm hoping that's what we hear from you when you're to speak, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Rachel Radel Harris.
Good evening, board. Thank you for taking the time to hear us speak tonight and allowing us to have public comment. And thank you for your service on the board. We really appreciate all your time and effort. I am Rachel Riddell Harris. I'm a mother of 3 Skyridge children. I'm on the Auburn City Council and I lead the City of Auburn Youth Commission. I want to note that I'm not representing the city, but I wanted to let you know that I just the extensive experience that I have with our community. And just what their thoughts and feelings are on these types of issues. From my opinion, our city and our youth strongly support the ideas put forth in this kind of statement. I understand that a DEI statement is politically charged. There's a lot of preconceived, I don't even have a cell phone. Preconceived notions about what it means, and a lot of people have certain thoughts about it. And to be perfectly honest, I don't care about any of that political stuff. We try to keep as much of that out of the city of Auburn as possible. What I care about is making sure that our students feel supported and that our community comes together to support our students. I do think that removing these values entirely sends a very strong message to our community and to our students. So I would strongly encourage you to amend rather than to remove it entirely. As a mother of biracial children, it definitely says something to me if you remove it. My father-in-law feels sometimes a little awkward coming to Auburn as an African-American man. And so I want to make sure that he knows that our entire community is supportive of him and of our children, and that we have that supportive community. So I encourage you to please rewrite this to show our support for our youth. And I'm sure that you all feel that same support. You obviously spend your free time doing stuff doing this kind of work that supports our children. Please represent our community by creating a statement that we can all support and be proud of together, and shows the support that we have for our children. So thank you very much for your time.
Megan Montoya.
Hi, I'm Megan Montoya. My husband, Joanne Montoya, and I have taught and coached kids in the Auburn community for almost 20 years now. He would love to be here, but he's currently with a diverse room of like Auburn students that grew up going to these schools. I want you guys to know that like words are so powerful. And of course, a school board that cares about kids and education is going to understand the power of words. But these are not threatening words unless we allow them to be. Diversity is a beautiful thing that we have fought for in our history, as several people have shared. It's something that America has valued, being a melting pot of people. It's something that our community has valued, and I've loved seeing that grow here as I've lived here. Equity is just the ability to meet diverse needs. That's really all it is. It's just the acknowledgement that everyone has different needs. Joey's always telling his football team that he is like not going to treat them all the same because they aren't all the same. Because to be a good coach and to have success as a team, to be a good teacher and have success in a classroom, to be a good school board and have success in our systems, to be a good community and have success in our communities, we need to recognize that different humans have different needs, and that taking away the ability to help those diverse needs does nothing but harm our community. I think about the word inclusion. Man, how many parents, those of you guys on the school board, think, man, I hope our schools aren't very inclusive. Like, I hope every day when my daughter goes to school that she can, at a basal level, inclusion is almost a human, like, feel safe in the community. I want you guys to, if you need to take away the term DEI and change some words, fine, but words are valuable, words are powerful. And if you guys take that entire statement away, all you're doing is saying that there are children here that don't value feeling safe. Whether that's what you're trying to say or not, it's sadly what it will say, because again, words are powerful. So if you're going to take away some really non-threatening but amazing words that have a rich history in our American communities, please replace them with equally valuable language. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. So on the DEI, or for us, DIE, I really do appreciate concerns have been raised. I really sincerely listen to each and every one of you. So I'm just going to share my position, though, on this. I think most of the people here know how I felt about this. Actually, I'm kind of disappointed. It seems like we all are looking at this so polarized. So I feel like I'm hearing things from people over there that are exactly what I am in support of, right? We want to provide what we can to each individual student. We want to help them as individuals. That's exactly what that's why I want to remove this sort of a statement. Just DEI programs. Now, everyone else uses DEI. This district, when they adopted the statement, was DIE, which is kind of an unfortunate acronym. But they do, in execution, tend to remove, like for schools, we see in Oregon, they took away the literacy and basic math as a requirement for high school graduation in Oregon in the name of equity, and that's through 2029. Because they're saying that certain groups of students, certain races, were harmed and negatively impacted because they didn't get to do the electives they wanted to do in their senior year, rather than focusing on reading and basic math. So we see that happening. We saw lots of universities, Harvard, Brown, Yale, drop SAT and ACT requirements in 2020. Now, initially they were saying it was because of COVID, but there was also an equity aspect to that in their argument. But they've since brought them back. So they're bringing those back around because we need those individual tests and see how people do as individuals, rather than looking at people as groups based on their race, gender, whatever else. In practice, DEI-focused initiatives tend to lead to discriminatory practices by making diversity itself the goal to be achieved, by punishing or rewarding applicants for immutable characteristics such as race and gender that they can't help. It lowers or eliminates academic standards, and it introduces grievance narratives, like in our statement, as an excuse for poor personal performance. Sarah Liebert, she said that So language. Um, Talked about we want students to be seen and valued without being reduced to labels. That's exactly what we should be removing DEI programs or DEI statements and support. That's what DEI is about. That's why we've seen universities going to segregated graduation ceremonies. I mean, it's about labeling students. Yeah, so they're doing that. We're seeing those separated by race, socioeconomic status, ethnicity, immigration status, and other identity groups. But how's that supposed to unify us as a community? You know, Ibram X. Kendi, the preeminent scholar celebrity of 2020 and champion of DEI, wrote that the only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. So against whom should we discriminate? When we last spoke about this, Ms. Liebert also suggested that she suggested that this statement supports having teachers who look like our students. But I don't see anything in this statement, and it's not a policy. I don't see anything that says we should have teachers that look like our students. I haven't heard anybody suggest that we should have hiring policies to get a 50-50 male to female staffing ratio of teachers. I'm not hearing that. So to what degree should race or gender outweigh the other tangible achievements in a resume and demonstrated ability in an interview? How much should somebody's race or gender outweigh what they're able to accomplish and their merit? So I move that we remove this statement from the district website. Let's just focus on providing a high quality education for all students, regardless of where they might fall on a social justice scale. We've got board of trustees meeting guidelines up here. We're trying to work hard to be inclusive. The board governance handbook that we recently adopted, in our guiding principles, as a board, we talk about providing every student must have access to a high quality education and the resources necessary to succeed. And we actually also have the word inclusive further down. I'm reading too fast right now, but I think we're trying to capture this and include our students. Removing the statement doesn't mean we don't value diversity. So I move that we remove the statement.
I'll second.
Well, and in the,
I would like to say something, but. Okay, I wrote something I want to say, but first I want to respond to just a few of the things you said, because I feel like just a reiteration of what we talked about last time. I'm still holding the position that the examples you gave don't really relate to the statement that we're talking about tonight. So you and I have had first of all, we had a really good conversation last board meeting, and I really appreciate that we are able to do that as a board. Because it's obviously a charged topic, and it means a lot to our community. It means a lot to the discussion. We've talked since then, so we've had a lot of conversation around this issue, and I'm still not really understanding the connection to all of the policy harm that you're describing, which I don't think is pervasive, but even if it is, I don't see the connection between that and the statement that everybody here is asking to keep because it means something to them. And you acknowledge that yourself, that none of those things in the statement are policies. So with that, I want to read what I wrote for tonight. Yeah, again, it's a statement. It's not a set of policies. We're not talking about board policy. We're talking about a statement that represents our community on our website. And I wanted to write something out because I had a lot of thoughts since last time, and I wanted to make sure I could stay on track with them. And some of this was, kind of said tonight, which I appreciated. I know a lot of people watched our meeting before, and a lot of people from the community have reached out, by the way, and said that they really support the idea of us collaborating, that is meaningful to them, that was a conversation we started to have instead of just erasing. So as you've talked about, and as I think many people believe that when DEI statements first started appearing on websites, it was seen as like a political wave. Now the push to remove it has become its own political wave. And if we simply ride whichever wave is popular or, current, we're not leading, we're just drifting. That is one reason why I think that we should just remove the statement. Instead, I am urging and asking that we revise the statement, that we lead with thoughtfulness, courage, and community values. A carefully crafted statement, and we can call it DEI or we can call it something else. It can reflect the voices and values of our entire community. Done well, it can unite rather than divide and build trust instead of eroding it. Removing it does not build trust. It does not solve concerns. It simply continues the cycle of political back and forth. And I think we're all really tired of that, like just exhausted at the political back and forth. I know it's a complex issue, and I know that it feels political to some of you and exclusionary. I've heard you describe that. I'm sympathetic to that position. But then many other people fear that without it, we're signaling that diversity, equity, and inclusion don't matter here. So both those perspectives matter, and they're both real and deserve to be heard. That's why I keep advocating for another way. We don't have to just vote to keep it or remove it. There's always another option, and that is available to us as a board. A thoughtful revision process, one that brings in voices from across our community and affirms the values we all share: respect, belonging, opportunity for every student. And I think we're hearing tonight that that would build a lot of trust in our community if they saw the values reflected in that one statement. Again, just a statement. I think removing it sends, as people have shared, it sends a different message to them. And I think that causes harm ultimately. And that's what we've been trying really hard as a board to not do. We're trying to be different than other boards, different than other groups that can't just come together and make a change. So tonight, I urge us to not take the easier path of removal. Let's choose the harder, braver, more responsible path of revision. Let's model for our students that disagreement does not have to end dialogue, but it can strengthen it. That's what leadership looks like, and that's the kind of district we want to be. And we should be steering the ship. We shouldn't be just getting caught up in waves. So I would like to give a motion that we do not vote on removing the statement, but instead we workshop something together and we bring that back. And can I make a motion? Okay, that's the motion I would like to make.
And is there a second? So. Are there additional debate or questions?
Yeah, I got a few things I'll talk on it. Just hearing tonight and also the last meeting is, I think we're all pretty much saying the same thing in a lot of ways. We're not in total agreement. We're not always going to be in a total agreement. And one of the things that was discussed last time is reworking our vision and mission statement,
That's what I'm
which we have coming up. That's that's coming up. We've already decided on a date on that. And and then I think a lot of this that we do agree with the statement and what we don't agree with the statement, I think we can capture this in our vision and our mission statement of our district. And that should be our guiding principles for the district. We don't need a separate statement on top of a statement as we have already. So I think all this discussion we're having today, that we can resolve this, when we look back and redo our vision and mission statement.
If you second my motion, that's exactly what we can do. Again, because I think just removing it feels to the community like, nah. I think if,
But we have to complete step one before you go into step two. So tonight is about completing step one.
no, I mean, the motion is just, we are gonna change.
Sorry, I don't support your motion.
Trustee, well, we've already discussed that mission.
I hear you.
statement.
Nope, I hear you.
Anybody else? Any other comments? Okay. So we did not get a second on that motion. The first motion to remove the DIE statement. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed?
Nay.
The ayes have it. Okay, and moving to item 10A, amendment to the 2025 board meeting schedule.
So we have, it doesn't need approval because it's a special session, but we do have a special session coming up that we found a date for regarding mission and vision. This was talked about last time. So we'll be talking about the process, on, I'm pulling it up, September 14th. Thank you. So that's a Sunday. It will be here. It's a special session board workshop. The idea will be that we'll talk about the purpose of mission, the purpose of vision. We'll look at our current mission and vision, and then we'll talk about timeline for collecting feedback. So a big part of the mission and vision rework process is that we get feedback from community members. That might be staff. It will be parents, and it can also be students, typically our older students, say 5th grade through 8th. So we need to decide what that looks like, what the timeline is, and then what types of information we're hoping to collect from our different groups. So I'll bring some examples forward and we'll talk through that. Part of the recommendation from CSBA when we look at mission and vision reworking is that it should be reworked every 3 to 5 years when there's a new superintendent or when there's new people on the board. So we've kind of hit all of those check boxes. And that's part of why we're working on it September 14th. Any questions on that? There's no action needed. It's just a calendar update for information. That's all.
Thank you. And on to 10B, the June 2025 board policy updates first read.
Okay, so this was a very hefty board policy packet, which I'm sure you saw when you were going through it. I will do my very best to keep you up to speed on the page number we're on. It might take a minute to load when you open it, but there are a few overarching pieces we want to talk about. So in the past, we had talked about looking at mandatory versus optional policy. We had talked about looking at just a list of those printed out. That isn't a thing that we've been able to generate, but what we did find is that at the top of each policy, and I sent this in an update so that everyone had it to look at ahead of time as well. At the top of each policy is a blue box that gives like a little information, and that's all included within the attachment. And in there, it will say mandated, it'll say optional, and occasionally it says neither, in which case we assume it's a mandated policy. So that was one of the conversations that we might potentially want to have tonight. If we look at optional policy, whether we want to keep it or not. There are a lot, so I can go through them. And then Emily has some kind of specific things that we talked about individual policies. So we can kind of start at the top if you want and talk about which ones are optional, which ones are not. Can I go from there? Does that sound reasonable?
Knock a chunk of them out.
Okay. Okay. Hold on to your hats because we're gonna go. All these orange tabs are a new one and we're gonna go through. Okay.
It's only
So-
262 pages, guys.
Oh my goodness, it's so much. Okay, let me grab my index because that's gonna be the easiest way to start. Okay. All right, the first one is mandated. This is our non-discrimination in district programs and activities. There was a question in this one specifically from the Board Policy Review Committee. It was just Emily and myself this time. Around, do you want to talk about the list, Emily, of protected class, that paragraph a little bit?
Yeah, so peppered throughout this entire review are paragraphs talking about protected classes. And from what I can tell, they should all be the same list of protected classes, but they're not. Brittany and I both kind of separately went through them and discovered that they should all be in there, but some of the paragraphs don't contain all of them. So I was just looking for to ensure that they're all, equal.
So I think the
That they all look
question.
the same, and that the whole policy is uniform that way.
Yeah, and I think that the question is, should they all be in every policy? I will say that when CSBA, just as a reminder, these come from CSBA's recommendation. They have their own board of attorneys who go through this and then look through and figure out what should be included and what's not. And then they cite, so if you look at the kind of first large paragraph, it's technically the third one down the page on page 1 of this policy. That entire paragraph really is a list of protected class. And then at the bottom, it has ed code, government code, and US Constitution citations. When you go through each of those, it pulls out the individual groups. And again, they don't all have all of them. So the question is whether we want to move forward with going through, like basically you go through with a fine tooth comb. I will be honest, it took about, I would say 20 minutes to do this paragraph. So I pull every California Leg Info, I pull every government code or ed code or US Constitution section that is cited. And then I have to figure out what's mentioned in there and check them off. So we can do that. That was one of the thoughts that we would go through and check. And then if it's different, then I would have to figure out why. And that would most likely be a conversation with attorneys to figure out why is this one not the same? Because they're going to have to help me determine that.
Can we just say, like, protected characteristics as defined by law, and then cite the ed code, government code, and US code? Especially if it's different in other areas.
Well, I mean, you could, because you can certainly modify policy how you want. I think the idea behind the policy is that it's as clear for someone reading it as possible. So if we did that, then we would be depending on people to go in there and search every code on their own, which they probably wouldn't do. It's a somewhat time consuming process. But we can certainly do it if we just want to make sure that they're all correct. Emily's concern was if these are all the ones that should be in there, do we just cut and paste this paragraph every time that paragraph exists? The question is, I think the question I'm asking is the why question. If it doesn't look like that paragraph, why doesn't it look like that paragraph? Then we could investigate that, which is
Yeah.
certainly something we can do.
I think I mean, for our ease of use and for making it more simple, I think what Greg is saying makes sense to me, where we're saying we'll follow these but up to what point did you say? Based on one or a
protected
combination of two
characteristics,
more
yeah.
characteristics and then list I mean, that would simplify it,
We just don't discriminate against people for any reason.
right?
Okay, so you're proposing district programs, activities, and practices shall be free from unlawful discrimination against an individual group based on one or a combination of two or more protected characteristics. And then list from there
Yeah,
The
like
codes.
as defined by ed code, government code, US code. I am
as
curious-
defined by, and then all these. Okay,
I am curious why it's different in other areas, but I don't want you to spend.
There's a lot of these paragraphs.
Correct.
in here.
I don't disagree with you. I'm also curious, but after doing it once, I also don't want to do it again. So, okay.
My thought is, if this updates and changes to you, then what if we had this in 8 different spots, but each one's different, and then we run into a problem where that's why I lean towards just saying.
As defined by, yes. Okay, so, but then we still run into the issue of even if maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
Spoke.
Okay,
The
go
first
ahead.
time I said it, I think it's the right way when you're saying as defined by government code.
The list of these.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So I think that cleans up the paragraph, but I don't know if it addresses the overarching question, which is, say you get three policies back, which we will get to, and you look at the paragraph and it doesn't have everything listed. It also won't have all of those codes. You know what I'm saying? I'll just pick a random one and I'm going to pick the wrong one. But if we say religion and religious creed weren't in that one, why? Maybe that aligns to Ed Code 2220. So that means Ed Code 220 wouldn't be on the list. Do you see what I'm saying? So
But I
we'll
think
still
each-
run into
each-
they
I
won't
think
match.
all those paragraphs, don't they list all the codes? I think each one of those has the codes in it.
All of the same codes.
Not these same codes, but the ones that they're relating to in each policy.
Can we do the one that has the most?
Let's-
Right, because then my question was, I think the question was, if I'm understanding it, why are they different and do we want
Yeah.
them to match? So if we want them to match, that wouldn't solve our problem. Do you see what I'm saying? Because we still wouldn't have the same codes associated.
Well, they have different codes. So if you look
Yeah.
at the, like policy 1312.3 on page 2, like it has different codes there. Or it has maybe one fewer code. It ends in a different
Yeah, paragraph 10.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have all the same ones you're saying.
Like this one ends in 2000 D7 and the first one
Ends
has
in
has a
E2.
code past that.
Right, so I think that's the question is, why are they different? Because if we're going to, here's just what I don't want to do. I'm a little leery of taking one list and pasting it in every other place if there's a legal reason for why that list doesn't exist that way. Do you see what I'm saying?
Can CSBA tell us why?
Well, yeah, I would assume they probably could, I don't know, I've never asked that question of them.
Well,
But it would be an attorney question. Now, CSBA attorneys or ours, I don't know, but that's who I would ask the question of.
so like say in this 13, what did it say it is 13, 12.3, that's got different codes. So we would just basically write the same sentence, but cite the codes in this particular policy. Is what I'm saying. You're going to have the same sentence because you're not parsing it all out and listing everything. You accept the codes that are associated with that policy. So it should reflect the correct characteristics within those codes. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right, okay, then that's a different question. So I thought the question was, why aren't they the same? So I think I just need
Right, that's
clarification on a
another question.
Right, so maybe there's two. So one question is, can you just cut it down to the codes? Which I think you probably could. It's going to be more work for someone to try to figure out what that means, but we could certainly do that. I don't think that would, other than removing words, I don't think that does anything to the overall statement of the policy. But the question is, if they don't match, is that something we feel the need to investigate? Or are we gonna take CSBA's at their word? Do you
Yeah,
see what I'm saying?
why wouldn't, what's the argument for not just keeping the policies that we were given?
So-
Because there are too many words?
Or that because they're different. As far as like from what we're given, because they're different, but. Yeah, because some paragraphs have ed code, some government code, some US code. It sounds like some don't have all of the same codes, so they're.
Yeah, I got that.
discrepancies. That was fine. But I wonder if it's just because it's state specific, it's covered by certain. If it's not covered by US code, it wouldn't have US code definition. So,
Right,
yeah, so why don't we just leave it the way it's written?
so then we're gonna accept what CSBA has given us based on their language and we'll leave it at that. Does that seem, that's in the circle? Okay, so we're making no changes to those paragraphs. You're just gonna leave them as, or you leave the words, leave the codes? We're
I
good.
think, yeah, trust the,
Okay,
yeah. okay, have it for a reason.
I'm good with that. I just got 4.5 days of my life back, so that sounds great. Okay, okay, BP 410, we went through that. Okay, the next two go together. This is charter school authorization. This is an optional policy. In terms of, there's some changes here in terms of material revisions. We talked about this a while back when we were talking about charter schools. But you can take a material revision. There's some new language around that, which has been changed in the BP and then corresponds in the AR. And Emily and I had talked about, this is the first one we hit that's optional. So the question is, do we keep optional policy or not? I will give this caveat and then we can kind of talk about it as these come up. Some of these policies are optional, but if we don't have them, then what happens is, as a district, we have to have an internal policy that would help us respond to that. So for an example, there's a tech policy that'll come up in here. And I believe it's an optional policy, but we have what's called FPM review right now. What does that stand for again, Kelly? Federal program monitoring. And one of the things they ask is, what is your tech policy? And we can provide the board policy and that suffices. If we don't have that, then we would have to have an internal policy to align with that. So I just want to put that caveat in there because if we blanket take out all the optional policy, it does actually put a decent workload on staff because we'll have to create internal policies for those things that we're going to need in future just to guide what we do. So.
That's for all optional policies or just some?
Well, it depends. I mean, for charter schools, for example, let's start with the one we're on. If we don't have these policies on charter school, right now, we don't have a charter school that we have oversight for. But if we had someone come with a petition to join as a charter, and at the end of the year is when the moratorium on non-classroom based charters ends. So there is a potential that come January, there are new charters that want to find a home, independent charters. So if we don't have this policy and a charter school comes to us with a petition, then we'll have to have an internal policy for authorizing those.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to look at optional policies.
Are there any questions on the charter school policy specifically?
Well, if we didn't have one and we were approached for the charter, could we not just decide to put this one in? And then that would avoid having to write internal policy,
Yes, you could,
like if we need it.
yes, and yes, you could. What that would look like is that if someone came to us for something and we looked and there was no policy on that, then as staff, we would say, okay, does a policy exist that's optional that we don't have? Then we would bring that policy to the board. We do first read, second read on that policy. And then we could adopt it after that. I suppose that particular, I don't know if I honestly don't know if there's a response timeline on a request for a charter school. Hopefully we could do that all within the timeline. My concern with that is just that it would create a decent amount of workload because we'd be kind of constantly trying to determine if there wasn't something if we needed
We
it.
kind of be doing what we're doing now,
Does
which is them looking at it, deciding on it, when we could just do the work now.
Individually,
Yeah.
yeah. And there are some optional policies that just are statements about, we do this thing, right? We talked about that last time. We had one with history and I think it was science. I could be wrong, but I think those are the two subjects where it said, we believe that this is an important subject and what have you, but it doesn't necessarily provide guidance on action to be taken. And those are a different thing. I think things like charter school authorization sometimes, is this particular example. If someone came to us, that's one we would need, and it gives guidance on how we respond. Questions or thoughts on that? Okay. All right, so then the next BPs basically are this idea of, okay, if you authorize a charter, then how do you oversee that charter? So there's a BP, there is an oversight exhibit, and then oh, no, that's it. There's no AR. That one is also, most of these are optional, by the way. That one is also optional. Questions on that one? Okay. Next one is also optional, district technology plan. This is one I would recommend we keep. This is one that helps us in terms of what we're trying to do in terms of our work. It has a corresponding AR for the district tech plan. Questions on that one? Okay. Do you want me to keep going? I was going to go through them to just lay out the optional ones. Is that?
I think CSBA is removing the AR of that one though.
That's what it looks like, delete. Or
Oh, I'm sorry. We currently have it. Yes, you're right. I read that wrong. CSBA is saying delete that one and it's all encompassed within the BP. That is correct. My apologies.
But you suggest we keep the BP.
Yes,
and get
that's
rid of
one
the
that we're specifically using right now for FPM. So that one we need, or we'll have to have an internal policy for that. Yeah.
And that's different, or is it the same one that includes AI?
No, the next one, there's an AIBP that's coming up next, which I believe is new. That one is 0441.
That one is optional.
This one is optional, correct?
Sorry, before we get to 441 though, Amber, you're kind of our leading technology, I think, one of the ones with concerns. Have you looked at that one? It does include language too about the board recognizing potential for technological resources that undermine student achievement, health, and well-being. Is there anything else in that, as long as it's a statement about the good and the bad with tech we should be looking at?
And then I just saw the description and the
That's
part of it.
page 35.
The first paragraph, Amber, there is probably, that's the one that has that statement piece.
Right, is it 35 at the top or 35 on the
Oh,
page?
oh, it is.
Page
It's page 1 on the page, but it's page 35 in the PDF.
Got it. So this is again, one of those just statements like you said about like reading or science and social studies. It's just another like acknowledgement of something.
This part of it is. So some of this is not just statements, but that part is.
Then goes, yeah, because when we get about halfway down the page, it talks about the district technology plan and things that have to be included within that.
Do we have policies on AI yet?
This is a brand new policy. The CSBA has actually been working on this one for quite some time, given all that's been going on with AI. So this one, if you look at the top, it says original adopted, I'm sorry, last revision. Oh,
That's the next one. The next one's AI.
oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong. The next one's AI. The AI policy is brand new.
This one though includes talk about AI in the district technology. plan.
Yes, it does. I was getting them confused, but yes. The district technology plan is the one that we would like to keep because this is the one we're using for FPM. Then the next one is the brand new policy on AI.
Which is 440, right?
441, but yes.
Okay. Oh, I feel like, is this a decision we're making tonight on the
No.
policy or we're just reading it? Okay.
Just
But we are, I'm, yeah,
Discussion, right?
taking your thoughts because if you want language changes, are
I
you on the AI policy now or the district technology plan?
I'm on the AI policy.
Okay.
I'm on 441.
So if you let us know that you don't want to approve that's not one you guys are potentially interested in moving forward with, then we'll make sure we discuss that next time. And if you were to approve the entirety with the exception of X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I think just looking at the very first sentence, AI should be used. That part gives me pause. I don't know about should be.
It's also,
But I mean, I feel like it's a conversation we should have just because the reality is it is being used. So I don't want to. Yeah, I feel really hesitant about making a decision on something like that. I would want us to talk about that more and understand what the implications of that are.
Yeah, and that's, I wonder too, so I'm still in the one above 440, but there's a note from a CSBA note that talks about governing boards are authorized to limit or prohibit student use of social media when students are at a school site or while the students are under the supervision and control of an employee or employees of that district. I think we more or less covered that with our cell phone policy. And Superintendent, do we already have prohibitions on social media use? I mean, kids aren't able to log into their personal things on our Chromebooks.
Right.
They shouldn't be using other technology school day.
No, they should only be using school district issued items and they wouldn't have access to things like Instagram. I don't know, all the things the kids are using. Instagram's probably only something old people use now. I don't know, but whatever it is they're using, yeah, they don't have access to their personal accounts. Dave, we use what's it called? A whitelist where we have to, okay. Okay, which would filter out any of those things we're talking about. Thank you. So would we like to say if everyone could read through 441 specifically, and then we'll have a deeper
Yeah.
discussion on that next time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, there are parts of it that are great, but I think we'll want to talk about it more and be prepared to talk about it more. I missed that when I went through this.
Okay. All right.
The other
Okay, so I will keep moving through and tell you optional. The next one is an optional one that I would ask to keep. That is a comprehensive safety plan. We let Laura know, who works on this for us, that we do a district-wide safety plan now, given our ADA. So that's option 2 in here, found on page. Where is it? Okay, 38. So we would go with option 2, that we do a district safety plan until we were to go above 2,500 in enrollment. We wouldn't have to do a school site specific safety plan.
We're doing that already, correct?
We are doing that already, yeah. It's in line with ed code, so we're good there. Any questions on that one? Okay, there's a corresponding AR with updates there, 450. It goes along with comprehensive safety plan, but board policy. The next one, BP 1113, is also optional, district and school websites. It talks about design standards and website content, privacy rights. We have to format our websites in a certain way so that they're accessible to people. And then we have option 2 being used with photographs of individual students shall not be published on websites accompanied by the student's name or other personally identifiable information without prior written consent of the parent or guardian. For example, if we had a student who won an award and they were on the website holding up their certificate, it had their name on it, we would get the okay from the parent before we did anything like that.
And that's the beginning of the year.
Yep, we do ask them to say yes or no to sharing their child's information. And then there's a corresponding reg that goes with that, 1113 also, district and school websites. And there's some updated language in the second paragraph to add, and the associated federal regulations there on the second line. Any questions on that one? Further discussion needed next time? Okay. We are not sure about the exhibit. It doesn't say whether or not it is required. It's unclear. But it does just talk about how we display things in accordance with the previous BP and AR. Questions on that one? Okay, then taking a look at BP 1312.3 uniform complaint procedures. If you make your way to that one on page 2 of the policy itself, we are going to make a change in line 11. We're trying to catch these as they go. I say we very broadly, Emily doesn't. Emily finds where students experiencing homelessness, we had this conversation before, to have it say homeless students. So we're creating those updates and changes. So we've already talked to Laura about that, and it will come back with that new language when we come back for second read. These are required policies, by the way. These are not optional. And then it has a corresponding AR and 2 exhibits. Questions on that? Oh, yep.
I tried to search it by.
I lost you. Okay.
It's on 57.
Thank you.
I'll try to keep up. That's where I use paper copies.
We're 57 to 262. We're getting down there.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay. Yep. We're going to keep going. So let me find the next one.
Are you on the AR or?
I just kind of, I didn't go through the AR specifically. It's just corresponding to the uniform complaint. And then there's 2 forms or exhibits that go with it.
There was the conversation we had earlier today about the wording of restorative justice.
Oh, was that in this one?
That's on this one on page 68 at the bottom, number 7. That I just wanted to highlight that I think you were going to be looking at that.
Yes. Okay, let me find it. Hold on. Is that that's the AR, not the policy?
That's the AR.
This is for a safety.
Yeah.
Okay, this is under corrective action. When a complaint is found to have merit, the compliance officer shall adopt an appropriate corrective action permitted by law. Is that the one?
No, it's
No,
down at
no,
the
that
bottom where it's numbered. It's number 7.
Under corrective action.
Oh, right. Oh, I was gonna look at that because we were going to update it and we had in previous, hold on, I had it. In previous board language, I think it was like a September update way back when. We had adjusted restorative justice to restorative practices. So the question was, did we want to align that with restorative practices instead of restorative justice on 7? Number 7, which is at the bottom of page 8. That's confusing. Is there an interest in that? Okay, I am gonna make that for practices. For Laura to.
68.
I know. It's so intense. I apologize. Okay, it's right. It's in the AL. I need to make a note. for this. Number 7. Okay. Trying to keep track on. I got paper. I got a computer. Laura, I got a new job for you. It's going to be board policy. Okay. All right. I'm going to try to find where you guys should be next. Okay. Regulation 3512 equipment is on 75 of your document. Equipment is an optional policy. It was last revised in 2020. It has to do with, oh, wrong one. Sorry. I lied. It was last revised in originally adopted in 1998. So it is being revised now, which is great because it's been quite some time. And again, it's optional in terms of how we use our equipment, the organizations who can be granted use of that equipment. Some of this we talked through is, for example, if we had neighboring districts that want to borrow equipment, there's language in here about what we do if people want to borrow it. And the question was, why would people borrow things if they're not part of AUSD? That's probably going to be in some sort of like disaster relief where some school districts have generators on trailers, or if you have a tractor and someone needs to clear debris. So there's policy in here and language around what we would do if we were loaning our equipment out. Anything else we would loan? Any thoughts you have on loaning equipment, Jeremy, other than that? Okay.
I don't think that's included in that.
Yeah, it was mainly the borrowing. And then the next thing is an exhibit that is for the loaning of equipment. So we could use this if we were going to loan our equipment to someone else. Any questions or thoughts on that one? Okay. We do have some recommended changes on the next one. It's about school bus drivers. It begins on page 79 for you in the electronic version. So we do not have drivers, but we do have students who ride buses. This is a mandated policy. So what we looked at here was that it makes sense to maintain up until page 3. So on page 3, it starts getting into things that employers would do. So transportation safety plans, pre-trip vehicle inspection, all of that kind of stuff. That's not on us because we contract out for all of our transportation services. So the recommendation of the committee was to remove everything, which is quite extensive, all the way back to page 6. So from the all drivers employed to operate school buses paragraph, halfway down page 3, all the way through page 6.
Are these things that they are required to do in their contract with us?
Correct. So they have to follow all the laws, and that's part of our contract with Durham, which is where most of our busing comes through.
So then should we maybe have something in there in the board policy saying that contracted services?
I believe that may be in here. Okay, so in the blue box, sorry, it says districts that contract out for all transportation services may revise this regulation as appropriate to ensure that the contracting firm meets all legal requirements regarding qualifications and responsibility. So we could put a line in there that essentially says that district for all contracted transportation services, district will ensure that the contracting firm meets all legal requirements regarding qualifications and responsibility. Does that sound reasonable? Okay.
Now, a question just kind of related to schools and buses here. Do the kids typically do any sort of evacuation training from the bus still? Is that an annual thing? I know we still use buses for field trips. That's something that the kids rehearse.
Do you know if that's true?
Okay, bring back some memories. Yeah, I mean, I think we all used to, those were the bus, practice going on. So.
We can bring that back next time. Like, oh. Yes. Right.
Your microphone, please.
That on, you can hear me okay? I was just saying that we are currently building capacity within the district to get trainers locally here within our district to do the crisis prevention training for any students who may have behavioral issues on any public, any transportation that we contract with, so that we can make sure that they're protected and that other students are protected in the event of any kind of behavioral outburst or issues like that for kids receiving special ed services. So we're in the process of doing that. So I suspect as soon as we get the training completed, we'll be reaching out to those transportation companies and offer training to them on our procedures that we expect to be used with our students. So that's not necessarily exiting the unit, but keeping them safe. So.
Michelle Bunt works a decent amount with Durham to help organize some of this. And we've been doing a lot of work with busing, given that we have additional lines. And one of the things she was talking about was drills. I just cannot recall what that is. So we'll talk to her and bring that back. Will you make a note, Jenny, so I remember to ask Michelle that question about bus drills, and we'll get that information from Durham and bring it back next time. Thank you so much. Okay. All right, next one. Non-discrimination in employment. We're in policy 4030. That begins, you're gonna have to go down quite a few pages, 85. Okay, that was one we had a question about. Here we go. Okay. Yep. So policy 4030, page 85, non-discrimination in employment. And the question that we had when we were going through this is if the how to recognize language, which is on page 4 of the policy, was required. So I did a little research on that. I'll let you get there. So if you go to page 4 of the policy, and you look at, let's see, 1, 2, the second paragraph down, second line, it says, well, I'm going to start from the top, actually, that paragraph. Superintendent or designee shall use all appropriate means to reinforce the district's non-discrimination policy, including providing training and information to employees on how to recognize harassment, discrimination, or other prohibited conduct. So I did check with Michelle regarding the HR requirements for that, and all 3 of those components are required and then present in our training that staff receive annually. And in addition, they get an annual notice of policies they need to read, and this policy is one of them. And that one's a required policy. Any questions on that? Okay, corresponding AR 4030. Oh, okay, so there was question about this one too. Find the right page. Okay, regulation 4030 starts on page 89. There was a question on page 3 of the policy itself, if you go to 3. It's the second paragraph of number 5. It's odd language. The district may also provide bystander intervention training to employees that includes information and practical guidance on how to recognize potentially problematic behaviors and which may motivate them to take action. So I looked up the government code. The language is taken close to that government code, but not quite. So the way the government code reads is this: an employer may also provide bystander intervention training that includes information and practical guidance on how to enable bystanders to recognize potentially problematic behaviors and to motivate bystanders to take action when they observe problematic behaviors. Yeah, there's one second sentence. The training and education may include exercises to provide bystanders with the skills and confidence to intervene as appropriate and to provide bystanders with resources that they can call upon that support their intervention. Which I think is kind of that second sentence. So if you would like, I can just replace this paragraph with the actual government code language. That's a little bit cleaner. Okay. I will do that. Okay. Next one is mandated on lactation accommodations for breastfeeding parents. I don't think we had any questions on that one, and it is mandated. Any questions from anyone else on that one? Okay. Employee notifications, you'll see a number of these. It's because each one gets a separate number if it's certificated, classified, or management. We have 1s, 2s, and 3s for that. So 4112, 4212, 4312. It's the same policy over and over. But it's for those labor groups. This is an optional policy. But it does, and it is just a statement about you providing clear communication to staff that is essential to establishing a professional and positive work environment and enhancing their job performance. It talks about that when required by law, you will provide district employees something to sign on BP, AR, and what have you. And we do this. So it would be my recommendation we leave these policies in place, even though they're optional. Questions on that? Okay, the next one is required language or required policy 4119. And again, you have 4219 and 4319 for the same reason as before on sexual harassment. I don't think we had any questions on that one, did we, Emily? No. Okay, AR is the same. No questions on that. Title 9. These are coming back, if you recall, because we had those changes that were put forward and then quickly the law reverted. We didn't actually adopt those changes, but these are all reverting to old language, if you will, for anyone who did adopt. So I don't think we had any Title IX things on the AR or the exhibit. So now we are on to BP release of directory information 5125.1. That is a required one. And Emily, you wanted to talk about that one. Do you want to talk about your questions about what's released? Yep, let me find it in here too. I'm finding it right now. Gotta get through so many.
184. So these two, this policy and the reg behind it, same number, are for
letting other people outside of school or parents have information about kids. I'll talk about the AR first. It's got a list on there, 1 to 11, of things that we can allow the media, other schools, the military, people asking for information about students. We can let them have all this information. It also includes information that you would put in like a yearbook or something. So I think we'll need to be able to have the name there, maybe the grade, things that are really not identifying. I see no reason for, elementary, middle school kids for us to give address, phone number, email address, date of birth, any of this stuff.
We opt out of that all. We don't have a way to opt out of that as parents, right? And I know that one of the reasons for these directories are so other parents can. So
Well, that's not what this is referring to. This is referring to things like yearbook, media requests, high schools, military, anybody that wants to advertise to your kid that here's some college information, whatever it is.
release of directory information.
Right. So while parents have the option to opt out of those things, I would prefer to backstop that by not allowing the district to give out that information. Like, there's no reason for us to ever give height and weight of a middle schooler to anybody, or, degrees or awards. Maybe we could do that because we could put it in a yearbook. That makes sense to me. But, most previously a school attended, I don't know, email address. If I had a student of any age that was underage, I would not want their email address given out.
Yeah, I don't know why we would release
So I
student records to anybody.
So I think that maybe as a board, we go, okay, we'll do these, 3 to 5 things. We're comfortable with these. We put that on the list. And then when we come over here on the policy, I think that we should change it just to read, the board authorizes directory information use for only for school district use, and shall not authorize directory information to be otherwise shared with outside entities without parental consent. I honestly see no reason for us to make things easy on other people that shouldn't have information. And then, sorry, the fourth paragraph, a student's directory information, I think it should say shall not be included in the minutes of board meetings. There's no reason for that either. And then the rest is already struck because it refers to high schools. So I think that needs to be cut way down.
What kind of thing would they use dates of attendance for? Would that be for like surveys, state stuff? Or like,
Well, we're running an attendance campaign. So for example, if you were to pass out and post in some way, I mean, it could even be something you posted in the office or what have you, like, here's who had perfect attendance this month and celebrate. Like, we're sharing that those students were in attendance those days. That's the level we would be at if we were trying to determine what we were releasing, if it could be considered public. Obviously, if you put something on a website or wanted to even to send out in a newsletter, I could see that where principals like we're celebrating perfect and improved attendance as part of our Arrive and Thrive campaign. Here's our students who've won by grade level. Then we would be both releasing their names, their grade level, and their dates of attendance.
I think if we could maybe reword it to say, like if Sally got perfect attendance in March, we could say Sally got perfect attendance in March. We're not specifying dates that she was here. It's in the past. She was there for the month of March. I don't think that would breach that even if we didn't include dates of attendance, because we're not being specific about the dates.
Just to clarify, it feels like this policy is reading that we should have a policy. It doesn't
Are you in the
s-
AR or the BP?
Oh, maybe I'm just looking at I'm looking on page 184 and 185.
It's mandated. They're both mandated.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm saying is it reads like you should have a policy around how you release it. It doesn't read as
This is what it has
this
to
is
be.
what you should do. Yeah, it's just saying, here's what's in here's how we define directory information. And you should have a policy around how that gets released.
Right, requires
Right.
district to. adopt
Correct.
policy.
That's the
So-
policy. So the policy is always going to tell you broadly what is being required. And then
Right.
the AR is the nuts and bolts of how we do the thing. And then they correspond by number. So I think you're correct. In the policy, this is saying we recognize the importance of maintaining confidentiality and releasing this information. The superintendent or designee shall only release information to the news media or other organizations in accordance with this policy and corresponding AR. So then you have to go to the AR and say,
That's what I was trying to find.
okay,
Yeah,
if I, as the superintendent, had a request to release, well, if we were high school, we want to publish who the valedictorians are in the paper. We want to publish your wrestling team and the awards they got. That would be height and weight, right? So those types of things, then I would say, okay, what can I release? What's permissible? Now, if a parent did say in their data confirmation, I don't want any of my child's directory information released, then hard stop, we don't release their child's directory information. But if they said, yes, you can release my child's directory information, then the AR would guide on what types of information fall within directory.
So
Does that
I'm
make
sorry.
sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. What part of this is the AR? That's why I was.
Oh,
bringing in-
the AR, so the BP continues until 185. That's the reg. The reg gives you 1 through 11. That's the list Emily was going through, 1 through 11.
And that's just, that list isn't saying, well, it is kind of saying that this could be shared, but it's saying that this is direct, let's see,
This
says.
is the definition.
Exactly, the definition, thank you.
Yeah.
So when a
yeah, I think
parent
that's
says
how I
yes or
was-
no, this is what they're saying yes or no to.
Yeah, it could be any of those things, but we would
Correct.
decide what they would be.
Correct.
We
Well,
would
We would
release.
decide what we release, or the
Right.
superintendent.
But that's
would.
not what's in here. Okay.
Right, it's just saying that these are examples of things that would be included, and boilerplate, right? Like the TKers don't have a major field of study. So that obviously wouldn't be released, so it would just be what would be relevant. to the class.
well, and this is obviously CSBA policy that comes out for K-12. So I don't really know if we would ever have major field of study. You could take that off, right? That would be like college announcements. This is where our students are going. This is what they're going to study. We don't have a wrestling program. Doesn't mean we never will, but that we probably have no reason to release height and weight. That's unless there's other sports. I don't know my sports super well, but I think that's the only one where you release height and weight. So yeah, I would argue with dates of attendance. We would, if we published Susie was here and had perfect attendance in March. I realize we're saying it kind of after the fact, but you could look at the calendar and say, that means Susie was here. I can definitively determine what days Susie was in attendance. So I think that one would preclude us from doing some things, because it's broad enough. But we could look at what if, because this is first read, right? We will come back to this policy, or actually the AR, and talk specifically about the list
Yeah.
next time. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
I still want to talk about the wording of the policy as well. Like, once we have the list, then determine how we want to use it.
Would
So
you,
both.
you have some sample language you're thinking, Emily?
Yeah, you want me to just send it to you?
Yeah, and then I can send it out to the board in an update, and then everyone can read it. We can talk about it in September. Alrighty. There is an associated exhibit with this one, which is a parent notice. This is essentially what we would send out to parents when we give them their annual update, and then we would just make this look like to match with the AR once we do the list. Okay. Next AR, This one is one that doesn't say whether it's required or optional. We assume then that it's required. It's on the use of seclusion and restraint. Obviously, that's a thing no one ever wants to do. Laura was talking about the CPI training we're going through, actually doing trainer of trainers with some staff, but we have only certain staff who are trained. If we do have an instance where we have a child who say is trying to run, these are typically students in special ed programs, and it's a dangerous situation. We're near a road. How do we safely make sure that child, doesn't make it into the road, right? So that we teach people safe ways to immobilize, maybe is the best word. Restraint sounds really intense. A lot of times it's just two people sit next to a person in a chair and lean in, and then they can't leave, right, and run away. So any questions on that one or anything you want to bring back in future? Okay. Next policy is a required policy 5145.3 on non-discrimination and harassment. I think our only questions are on that paragraph. Nope, I lied. We want to look at page 3 of that policy. I am getting there.
195.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank you for the assist. Okay, page 195. You're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. It begins with when a student has been suspended. Wait,
194.
194, sorry. When a student has been suspended. Okay. So we already, remember this is coming back because we didn't make a change. We already have the may language instead of shall. So on the second line, the principal or designee may engage both the victim, and on the third line at the end, the principal or designee may also require. Previously that said shall. So we already have the update to change that to may. The other question is, if you recall, back in the September policy update, we changed some language on a policy around suspension expulsion. And we changed it to with this language around restorative practices. So the question is whether or not we want to match that language in this paragraph. So after the second line where it says the principal or designee may engage both the victim and perpetrator in restorative justice practices suitable to the needs of the student. In a previous, a different suspension expulsion policy with similar language, we had changed that to restorative practices suitable to the needs of the students, including but not limited to mediation with the principal or designee. And then we added our own language afterwards to address individual needs. The principal or designee may also conduct check-ins with the victim and have the perpetrator engage in restorative practices focused on prevention and education, including but not limited to counseling support, conflict management, and or culturally sensitive education, which is similar to what's here. So the question is whether or not we have interest in rewording this to be similar to what we had in the suspension and expulsion, and then I would bring that back for second read. Interest in aligning it with the other language that we had. Okay. I will work on a rewrite for that, and I will share it with you ahead of time so that you have a chance to look it through. Okay, getting closer. Okay. Okay, corresponding AR. Okay, Emily, you had a question on this one, page 6 of the policy, paragraph 1.
Is that the AR?
On the AR, yeah. I
Um,
think it's where we start definitions.
yeah,
Um,
I just had questions about the definitions. I realized that these come from the state, it looks like, but I also feel like they get rehashed all the time, so I don't know if including new definitions is required here or not.
Required or not, I think. We do have to, it is a mandated policy. I don't see any parts about amendments. I will say when I was doing my deep dive on government code earlier, there is an entire government code that lays out definitions. Government Code 12926, and it's I don't know if it has all of these, but it does lay out definitions. And my assumption would be if the government code was to change, which I think is your fear, right? That it might change and then it won't align, then the BP would have to be updated and that would go out in a CSBA updates, typically what happens.
And this one, it looks like the definitions on this page are in code. So.
Oh, potentially they're for med code then, yeah.
Take another layer. But I don't see why we don't just keep it here and change, take the update when it comes through.
Leave it as it is and take the update.
There,
Okay.
yeah, the definition.
Okay. Any other questions on that one?
On this AR?
Correct.
Yeah, on the next page,
Oh.
page 7, I am not sure that what we can do with this. There's conflicting federal and state law. There's litigation currently ongoing about most of these numbers listed on here. And I wonder if we can remove most of this and just say the district will remain in compliance with applicable state and federal law, since everything is in flux.
Number 1 through 6, 7, wherever we're at.
I mean, it's not just one case of litigation. They're stacked up.
So your ask is, do we remove all of these and just say that we're in compliance with state and federal law?
The district will remain fine.
I will say there is a lot of things happening. There's a lot of adjudication happening currently between state and federal law conflicts. Some of that will come up in the last policy we talk about with athletics. There's actually something that's just even as recent as July, I want to say, or early August. Where we run into, and really it all, if we get down to the nuts and bolts of it, it all comes down to money, right? If you violate federal law, then, the executive orders are saying, then we're going to pull Fed funding. We also run the risk if we violate with policy state law, then our state dollars are in flux too. Right now, CDE is putting out a number of responses to DOJ and executive orders that come across the nation to respond on behalf of California. And I don't think there are any that have said that, there's a need to necessarily change to align. Their attorneys are working through, here's why we agree, or here's why we disagree. And then we're waiting for it to come out through the courts. Now look, this is all like, I agree. It feels a little bit, unsteady, maybe is the right word. But I will say that if we stay the course, I feel fairly confident that we're in a good place to say we're continuing until we hear otherwise. And therefore, I don't think our state dollars at this point, I also don't think our federal dollars are in jeopardy. If we do make drastic changes, however, I think we run the risk that then we could have our state dollars potentially be in flux and or in jeopardy. And I think if I'm right, we have about 7 to 9% of our budget comes from federal funds. 7. Okay, so 7% of our budget comes from federal funds, meaning the remaining 93% comes from state. So, that's just a risk to run in either direction. Unfortunately, at this point is where people are at, trying to figure out which end is up. But I think waiting for the courts to come through on all those things is a fairly safe place to be.
I think it may be more helpful to have some of this in our board policy too, rather than making people try to look for it. So I think that'd be easier to just keep it, stay the course, wait until we're.
Well, I was just wondering if we could ask, whoever you're gonna, whatever attorneys you're gonna ask, like, does this language need to be in here verbatim? Or could we just put the sentence in that I was suggesting?
I could, if that's the desire of the board, I'm happy to reach out and I can get feedback for you to bring back from attorneys.
I'm okay leaving it right here where it is.
Yeah, I feel like it's safer to and appropriate to leave it until we get different guidance.
Okay.
Page to be on again.
Oh boy, good question.
Especially because of how many different parts to it. It might be a little bit of both. I don't know. It's hard to decide. When do they plan on changing it again?
Whenever it works.
Yeah, which is not a fast turnaround, to be honest, Renee. It's gonna be a little bit of time.
So it might be in the next book.
If, well, if it was adjudicated, there was a ruling, I mean, it's, my assumption would be, and again, it doesn't happen overnight, but that CSBA is gonna make those changes because they typically are made when laws come out and it takes them a 4 to 6 month time period to turn that language around, and that's pretty understandable timeline people get, and then we make our updates.
That's kind of the reason why I would prefer to write, we follow the law, because when the law changes, then we're just following it, as opposed to now we've got to wait 3 to 4 months to review it
Right.
and get the policy in there correctly. I mean, because I'll just say this, one of these things is, this is all Title IX, so it's boys and girls sports. I am not for boys and girls sports. I never will be. And I'm looking to protect those girls as soon as we possibly can by law.
I would like to see it simplified as well myself.
I mean, I don't know how you can simplify it. And if, I mean, the whole book could just be we follow the law.
Well, I think a lot of it could be, that would pare it down significantly. We've got a lot of repetition in here. Policy after policy repeats itself. We've got 2 different sets of policies that are in here 3 times for various reasons. So there is a lot of duplication and redundancy, and I'm all for paring it down wherever we can. But in this case, I think saying we follow the law, as soon as the law is there, we can come back and change it when the new board policy comes out. We can review it then. But if we're saying we're following the law, we're going to do it right when the law is applicable.
And I'm not seeing where this one addresses Title IX concerns. At least on this
Is
page.
number 3, the
Good.
second paragraph
No.
of number 3? Students shall be permitted to participate in accordance with the student's gender identity in other circumstances where students are separated by sex, such as for class discussion, yearbook pictures, and field trip.
But according, yeah, I mean, as
Good.
of now, they can.
Well, that's where we get into.
And then there's
That's
sex
the same
above
number,
that,
same
sex
thing.
segregated facilities, restrooms, locker rooms. I mean, these are things that are being litigated right now by the Department of Justice. I prefer to follow the law as soon as it's enacted, not wait for a policy to come by months later.
Well, I think no matter what the ruling is, we wouldn't be able to turn around and immediately comply until we got guidance on what that looks like. So I'm comfortable leaving the language as it is right now, more clear. That way we're not sending people to go try to find it on there.
Well, I mean, you suggested earlier that we say, make the statement and cite the codes. And now you're changing.
I think I changed my tune on that before we were done with that discussion. Let's go back to keeping it that way because they were different in different ones because some were state, some were federal. And that's why, at least for some of those, they would have ed code versus government code or a combination of the two, depending on what levels of authority were over that particular section.
So you don't want to ask the attorney the opinion then?
I don't think we need to right here, because with the influx, some of this also would be helpful to staff to have in a single place Such as, inadvertent slips or honest mistakes by district personnel in the use of students' name and or pronouns may not constitute a violation of this administrative regulation or the accompanying board policy. Something like that is helpful, for people to be able to find more clearly and understand that, we recognize inadvertent slips, that sort of thing. So I think that does protect our staff. I think it's helpful to have this all right here in our board policy. And then as the law changes and gets adjudicated, then we will update our board policies to reflect that. But right now, this is still compliance with the laws that they're getting resolved.
It would still be in compliance with the law to say we are going to follow the federal and state laws.
I don't think any attorneys.
Well, they may word it in a different manner, but I mean,
why are we even dealing with this? I mean, can we strike some of this out? Like number 2, the use of pronouns. We don't use pronouns anymore. This clearly states that, upon a student's request, we have to abide by that.
Because we do have to.
I don't see why we have to. I won't. And I will not. And I don't see why we have to force others that will or won't as well.
Fortunately, that's by the law.
Yeah, but here's the thing, we have,
Term, you
wait,
don't think we
if,
would
a-
vote
wait,
on
hold on, finish.
Absolutely.
If a law is made that is
Amber and
unconstitutional, it's
Jason.
no law at all.
I
So
think-
this is clearly an unconstitutional law. So why are we, abiding to it? I will
think
not.
Amber is correct, though, that getting into a discussion about the use of names and pronouns does go beyond the scope of what this is. We're looking at this,
Yeah, I think this whole thing as a whole needs to go. My opinion.
well, I think we have 3 people who are fine keeping it like it is, as is. We'll bring it back for second read.
All right, please tell me your pronouns later.
Okay,
I'll let you guess.
so we'll bring it back as is in September. Okay, so next one is on parent guardian notifications in board policy 5145.6. Someone else wants to find the page for that, that would be great on the electronic version. Unless 204. It's a short one. It is optional. Talking about rights of parents, wanting to promote effective communication. If there's any comments on it, we can take it. Anything you want to bring back? Otherwise, this is one we've had since 07. Just updated with actually no changes. It's just being brought back because it's, I think, quite old in terms of the last time. No questions on that one? Okay. It has a corresponding exhibit. Talks a lot about annual. This is all part of our annual notification. And it lists a lot of things that we put in our annual notification. Not all of these apply to us. Some of them are high school, but it's quite a task to go through that list. So we only include the ones that apply to us and share those with families as applicable for a K-8 school. It goes on for, I want to say 10 pages or so. So I'm not going to go through all, okay, 17. I'm not going to go through all of them, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask. All right, we're gonna skip down quite a bit in that list to BP 5145.7 on sexual harassment. There, 223, thank you, 223. There are some minor language changes in there, but I didn't have anything that was of note to discuss unless I'm missing something. Okay. On the next one, though, the reg, we did have wanting to discuss, oh no, I take it back. It's the same paragraph question about including the government codes, which we already clarified. So I don't think there's anything to discuss on the reg either. Which means we're moving on to Title IX, sexual harassment complaint procedures. These are all, and the corresponding exhibit, these are all reverting to past language, which for us pretty much remains the same because we didn't adopt the updates before the language went back. So I don't have anything on those either. Okay. When you get your final read, we have websites that we've now that will now be pasted in there so that they're correct. Married pregnant parenting students. It is an optional policy. We have had it since 2013. There was language throughout. So if you want to take a moment, or not a moment, but if you want to take between now and next time to read through that, you are welcome to do that. I'm going to say this doesn't really apply. with the-
Actually, in,
but,
in
yeah.
my time at Auburn, I've known of one, middle school student at least who was pregnant.
Okay,
So-
I was gonna say it doesn't apply often, but apparently not never, unfortunately. So this policy does exist and it has rights in terms of, breastfeeding, childbirth, all of those kinds of things in terms of being out of school for absences. So if you do want to talk about this one further, please let me know and we can bring it back for further discussion. It's only a BP, no AR. Reading language arts instruction, this is an optional policy. It's the next one, 6142.91. I will say we did take out the science and social studies. It was just more of a statement. This one, I would like you to read over, if you're kind of leaning the same way of potentially removing it. We do have language in here it's on the second page, screening for risk of reading difficulties. And we have a responsibility now to have an RDRS screener. Remember, we voted on that. You voted on that. We're doing multitudes. So take a look there. I think it does have language in there that talks about the board shall adopt at a public meeting, which I think behooves us because that's the law that we adopt that. So it might be nice to have this policy remain, given that it has RDRS in it. But if you would like to discuss that at September and bring your thoughts, I would just take a look at it and read between now and then. Any questions now?
So how many more of these do we have to look at?
Not many, 3 or 4.
Okay, well, let's take a 10-minute recess. It's 9:14. Let's round up to 9:15 and we'll be back here at 9:25. Okay, it's 9:25. We'll reconvene here.
Okay, so last two actually, BP and corresponding AR on athletic competition. The oh, I had it up here. Okay, the policy on athletic competition starts on 248. There's some struck language. It's all 9 through 12 language that doesn't apply to us, including a line about CIF because that's not our governing body. Other than that, the policy is remains as is unless there's further question. The reg is on 252. That's regulation 6245.2 on athletic competition. Emily had some language she wanted to look at in there, similar to what we looked at on the previous page regarding, sorry, just it on. Oh, on page 1, 3 paragraphs down regarding participation in single-sex athletic programs consistent with a student's gender identity. I had sent some information on this. This is currently in the courts. It just was brought forward, I want to say July, it may have been beginning of August, between DOJ and CDE and CIF to talk about whether or not participation in sports consistent with gender identity is okay or not. It hasn't been adjudicated yet. The particular conversation is trans girls, trans women, and girls and women's sports. July 9th, I actually did write down the date. It was brought forward in July 9th. So obviously we haven't heard the outcome of that yet. And it's currently being decided.
Do we have to wait for an outcome or can we make a decision of not complying to this?
So if you don't, right now, California law states what's in this policy. So that's what we comply with. It's in Ed Code. I think I sent you the Ed Code link. And there was a couple things in there. But yes, the specific Ed Code uses this language that it's single sex athletic competition is with the student's gender identity, irrespective of gender listed on records.
Well, I don't agree with it.
Oh, sorry. It's on 252. Should be on the first page, third paragraph down under the third blue box.
Yeah, I mean, this is the law. We're also an elementary district, so we also have a lot of sports that are co-ed. I mean, I think this looks a lot different for our TK through 8 sports. And it's California law. I think we should keep it.
My recommendation remains the same as it did previous, that, you know, more information will come our way. To Renee's point earlier, when will that happen? It's not going to be particularly fast, but at this time, I think aligning with California law, continuing to do as we have done and is laid out in Ed Code. Should a change come, we'll know about that. And when it changes, we'll follow whatever that law may be and update our policies accordingly.
I would like to see it strike regardless whether it's California law or not.
And again, we do have sports that are co-ed, so we have students who already play
that's-
together in a lot of, in our TK through 8.
I don't have a problem with that.
Well, this is still just first read. So we'll come back to this. Gotcha.
Okay. Last two AR 6159 behavioral intervention for special education students. This has language in there. We talked about restraint before. There's new language regarding prone restraint, which means lying down, which is a big no, can't do it, prohibited. So that language has been amended within the policy to align with that. 258. And that one doesn't have any language on mandated or optional. By line, it is optional. The following optional administrative reg is based on the Office of Special Education and U.S. Department of Education recommendation. I would say this is certainly something that applies to our students. It also has information about functional behavioral assessments, the corresponding intervention plans, what we do in an emergency. That's part of our, also part of our comprehensive safety plan. So this is an optional policy that most likely we would want to have. That I would let you know that one's optional. Any questions on that one? Okay, if you do, we can bring it back or let me know if you need anything from me prior to second read. And then last but not least, bylaw 9011, disclosure of confidential privileged information. This is just an overall revision. Sorry, it's on 261 in your documents. This one may be the winner of last revised original adopted date 1988. So take a look at that, read it over, but there's just a lot that needed to be updated in there. And that's it, unless you have any other questions about this gigantic binder of policies.
Any other questions? Section. Seeing none, let's go on to 10C and get our facilities update.
All right, we've had a lot of projects going on over the summertime. We have a picture of one of them. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the playgrounds at E.V. Kane. This is the TK playground, a picture of it with the rubber play mat installed. The construction fencing is going to come down tomorrow. We're going to have some temporary orange fencing along the railing and where the gate's going to be. And that's going to be a couple weeks out, and they'll have to fabricate that. But in the meantime, the kids will be able to use the structure in the play area, and with some minor modifications, just, you know, for safety. It'll have that orange, you know, fencing that you've seen up around construction sites. It's kind of plastic looking, but it'll be usable. We did a lot of beautification projects. Dave was in charge of that, for putting bark out and getting trees trimmed, and the site's looking ready to go for the school season. And the other projects, the playground out for the older kids is complete. The shade structure, we ran into heavy rock, and so we had to redesign the footing, and that's why there's a delay on that. And it'll be installed within the next 2 weeks. So DSA has to sign off on the new footings that are going to be installed. They can't go 10 feet down, so they're going to go about 4 feet down with more concrete out to the side. So that's the reason for the additional fencing in the play area out there. It's all fenced off. Kids can't get into where the rocks and the, you know, construction site are. So it's as safe as it can be. And I've been out to inspect the site, and I feel like it's comfortably, you know, safe for the kids to be in the area. The gutter project went well, and, you know, the main thing that protects the buildings is obviously the roof, but the gutters are next. If you don't have good gutters, you can't protect the buildings. And so we have, you know, installed new gutters along the main 3 wings and then the upper portable that, you know, will help protect those buildings. The ball wall was installed at Sky Ridge. The shade cover needs additional DSA approval for it. So it's going through architecture review. Once that's done, then we'll get the shade structure up over the playground. And then after that, we'll work on E.V. Kane and then Auburn Elementary for additional shade covering areas over playground structures. The ELOP program received all the additional funds from the budget. And so we're ramping up ELOP programming, trying to add additional infrastructure for ELOP this next year, and also add in the Police Activities League through the Sheriff's Department into our programming. So I met with all of them and all of the sites, ELOP programs, the Boys and Girls Club, the Champions and ARD to add the Sheriff's Department into that programming. So we're trying to add another, about $800,000 worth of programming into ELOP this next year. And we're spending about $900,000 a year. So 1.7, 1.8 million. The other project that we've been working on are the remodel of 2 classrooms that had water damage. One was from vandalism and the other one was just a leak in the ARD portable. And so those had to be rebuilt over the summer, which caused us to, combine classrooms for after school program and a lot of other things. There's so many projects we did. We got a lot done with Dave's help, of course, and he coordinated a lot of it. We had some classroom moves. We were out there moving desks and chairs right at the last day, trying to make it all work at EB Kane, and it all came together. So thank you, Dave. And we have the preschool now at Auburn Elementary. There's a fence that went up, a playground. We moved sheds, 2 sheds yesterday over on the site. So it's been a lot. And we're going to continue to do more and make these facilities, the best they can be. Any questions?
No, thank you. Thank you. On then to board governance and update on requests and new requests.
I don't think I had any requests that were outstanding still. We had the PALS, or I always say backwards, but Placer Sheriff Activities League from Emily last time in June. Want to hear about which Jeremy has done an update on, unless I'm forgetting anything.
I think so.
Okay.
New requests. I think we just had a little question about those drills. Like, do we do those still?
Drills on buses. Any others?
The district community leadership team, is that something that board members can attend or be part of?
The district.
I think that's what you guys met today.
Oh, the district,
Did I say it wrong?
is that what it stands for? DCLT. Yeah, that's our IPBIS team. So we actually talked today about what that might look like in terms of participation of community members, including board. So we meet once a month to talk nuts and bolts and then have that community outreach piece about quarterly. So we can certainly look at that. We're just scheduled our next meeting on the 18th or 19th. I can't remember. One of those two, which is more of a nuts and bolts as we get started. Today was our first meeting to lay the groundwork. So then we have those community outreach meetings scheduled quarterly. We can reach out at that point.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a request, but I guess we still need everybody to kind of support it. But if the board could be getting some of the emails to go out to each of the different school sites. Like I get emails from Skyridge because my kids are there, but I don't get the emails about PTC for like Auburnell or for so if somehow we could get included on that as a board.
We used to have a spreadsheet at one time that kind of listed all those dates. And it was kind of listed so we kind of signed up for slots so there's no more than 3 at a time. To something.
For events, Jason, or like meetings?
Well, like meetings,
Yeah, it was pretty much all district events. So we would have, so we would get it like at the board meeting, just before your time.
Yeah.
So we'd get at the board meeting and it would have like any games coming up or plays or, popsicle with a principal sort of deal. And it would have signups. So if 2 board members wanted to go, we wouldn't accidentally get 3 showing up at the same place. And of
Okay.
course, we don't have to sign up, but it was still just, encouraged.
Okay. So maybe generating something, every couple of months out.
Something like that, if it's not too much work.
So Jenny, can you make a note to put that on cabinet? That'd probably be the easiest place to talk about that with principals. Well, I think, two things. One, if it could probably it's catapult, because I know you can create that list, and then making sure secretaries or so as know to add when they're sending out whole school communication. And then the secondary piece would be site events. Of site events, yeah. Yeah, and then we would kind of put 2 slots for who's attending, and that way first 2 people to sign up.
You could probably put that into like the share drive
Yep.
folder.
Okay, got it.
Can we maybe get, follow up with the EB Kane, drop off pickup a little bit, maybe a description of how the principal feels and, if there's a plan or process. I know last year, Skyridge re-evaluated right at the end of the year and, I forgot the first day of school to tell my husband, so kind of funny. Um, especially if there's a process or a thought going on.
So for that one and for the drills on buses, is email fine for that?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll send those out. Actually, I'll send the DCLT stuff out through email too. So I'll put all those in one when we have it. Okay, anything else?
So back to you for comments, though.
Okay, well, I haven't talked very much. So we talked for a long time. No, we had our start of school. It was fantastic. As any start of school is, there's always a tiny bit of chaos amid all the joy and the great things that are happening. But everyone handled it well, I think. Students showing up, asking us where their classes are, helping them navigate the situation, drop off, pick up, all the things. Sites did a lovely job. They looked beautiful. Our facilities, team did an excellent job under Dave and Jeremy's leadership to really work on making sure our front of schools looked fantastic. We have our Arrive and Thrive banners up. We've launched our attendance campaign. Teachers' classrooms looked beautiful. They spent a lot of time, obviously they always do, putting their heart and soul into that. Prior to that, we also had a really fantastic welcome back day on Monday, the 11th. So we launched our curriculum leadership team this year. It's 1 grade level and 1 department teacher, 1 teacher per department that serve as a lead. And we were able with AUTA to work together through negotiations on those positions because they're stipended. And I really appreciate the collaboration we had around that and their job descriptions or their duty statement, excuse me, because our team is doing fantastic work. They were able to take some priority standard work that I guess had been done in the district 3 or 4 years ago, and bring those priority standards out, review them with their team so everyone's on the same page and understanding where they're going trimester by trimester. And they spent about an hour and a half doing that, and then about an hour and a half taking their curriculum and aligning it to their priority standards, focusing on ELA first and math next if they had time. And obviously their subject if they're department based. And so what came out of that was trimester 1 curricular plans that teachers can now collaborate on during our PLC Mondays and have student data driven conversation. Those start in September with PLC. So we're super excited to have all of this kind of moving forward and teachers working together. Teachers are their best partners, right, in terms of their collaboration. So that's fantastic. I think, we made a lot of strides last year and we're continuing on that same path. So I'm very proud of all the work our team has done. Been very impressed with them. And I will say that I think that I'm not the only one that feels like we have made a decent amount of progress because our enrollment is up. We finished last year at 1340. We just did what we call a warm body count, who actually showed up to school that enrolled. And we have 1330 right now in terms of enrollment. So we're not quite where we finished last year, but it's the closest we've been in a really long time. We have pretty full TK and kinder classes across our district, which is great because our biggest classes are the ones exiting. Our older students tend to be larger populations of students. We don't have as many younger kids coming in. And we saw that in our demographic study, so it's not unexpected, but it is good to know that we're building our early learners who are coming in. The sooner they come to school, the better off they are, I think. So that's great. So our enrollment's looking really good. And, speaking to Sarah's point about schools, we did have overflow, which we call redirects of students to EB Kane from Skyridge and Auburnell, because they were full. When we did our warm body counts, some students didn't show up in all grades. So we were able to offer them spots back at their home school. And the majority of people, if not all, said to us, we love it here. We don't want to go anywhere. We met our teacher. This place is great. We're going to stay at EB Kane. So things happen, I think, sometimes that are hard to begin with, but we end up in a really good place. And all of our schools, I think, are demonstrating that they're places where people want to be. So we appreciate all the hard work of our teachers and our staff to get us there. I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Well, welcome back, everybody. And yeah, thank you. Really, we are fortunate to have this team at our school sites and at the district. So I know I'm very grateful for what you put together and the team you're leading. I was fortunate enough to join you for a little bit of that on the 11th. And it was great seeing the energy in that room. And I was reflecting on being there and how much happier I was to be in that room for this welcome back message, where you've got full TKs, full kinders, and as opposed to some of the harder decisions we had to make a couple years ago. And it's good to see that that those are bearing fruit and we're moving in a positive direction. So thank you for all of your hard work, superintendent, and everything your staff is doing at the district and at schools.
Yeah, thank you so much to the staff. At the camera, I feel like I want to thank them out in the ether for your hard work. I'm really proud to be a part of this district and this community. Also just want to say that tonight was really hard. And particularly, I want to applaud the community members who came and spoke tonight with such eloquence, grace, calm. Everyone did an incredible job really advocating for something that matters to them. And ultimately, you all tried to build a bridge. You tried. So thank you.
And welcome back. I've also got to attend the Welcome Back Day, and I have to say, I was really impressed with all of our teachers that are involved in the curriculum leadership team. I got to duck into a bunch of the classrooms, the grade level classes, and there was a teacher leader. They were all focused. They were working together. There was great camaraderie in all the groups that I visited, and I'm just really excited to see these teams kind of work together throughout the year and build something good. We got an email a couple days ago. I want to congratulate Jeremy on passing his CDO exam. So proud of you and happy to have you. One more accomplishment for Jeremy. Thank you.
Well, I also same sentiments. Thank you, Jeremy, and congratulations. And it's probably everybody knew you could do it. So. And so again, welcome back, everybody. It's glad to be back. And just going through tonight, I just want to kind of just share, at my heart, just a little bit, a statement, just kind of gotten down. And basically, just because something law doesn't mean it's right. And this is for me, myself. I have an obligation to reject any law that is unconstitutional that we swore vote to that goes against my basic and our basic God-given rights. And we are seeing that at a state level. So just want to leave you all with that statement.
With that, looks like it is 9:49. Is that correct? I'm not. It is 9:49 and this meeting is adjourned.